Peter Buka is a Hungarian pianist who has amassed over 3 million subscribers and hundreds of millions of views. In this video I'm going to be breaking down his arrangements with an in-depth analysis and ranking them in terms of difficulty, as well as providing insights into how to practice these arrangements for yourself. The first cover we'll be looking at is the main theme from Stranger Things. The piece begins with the right-hand ostinato, which develops into left-hand crossovers, and the octave melody and left-hand arpeggios come in a little bit later. These things are pretty typical of Peter Buka's arrangements, and are seen in practically all of them, so if you are at the stage of learning his arrangements, you should have no problem with this. There are some moderate tempo scalic runs at around 33 seconds and 43 seconds, but once again, if you're used to playing Peter Buka's arrangements, these should be no problem for you. They're just the same pattern repeated across multiple octaves, and they aren't that hard to get down. It's just a question of learning the pattern and then getting used to the distances between them. At 57 seconds, there are some full-on scalic arpeggiated runs in the right hand, and these are very difficult to play, especially when they're coupled with left-hand crossovers with really large distances. Overall, the piece is manageable. There is just that one section right at the end at 57 seconds where you may have to take it a little bit slower than you're used to, play it hands separately and try to link small sections together until you can eventually play the whole thing slowly. And remember, tempo will come later, so don't try and play it faster than you're ready for, as you may ingrain mistakes which are really hard to erase. So with that said, the piece is quite short as well, so I will be putting it in medium tier. Let me know in the comments. There is a lot to unpack in this piece. One of the main things I want to talk about is just the fact that it's a 4-chord song. So of course, from an arrangement standpoint, it does give Peter Buka a lot more freedom to mess about with it. In a way, it also helps you learn it because you can easily hear out for wrong notes and stuff because the harmony never changes throughout the entire piece. At 35 seconds, you can see a very typical left-hand accompaniment pattern. Basically, the left hand is just outlining an octave with an added fifth, and it isn't changing position. And it is a lot easier than it looks like. It just helps build intensity without changing the difficulty too much. At 1 minute 25, there's a right hand embellishment. Take your time with these sections, practice them hands separately, and attempt to link small sections together with both hands very slowly. You really do not want to ingrain mistakes at this stage, because it can take a lot longer to get them out of your muscle memory than it is to program them in. It's better to get it right first time, and the tempo will come later. Just after 2 minutes, there's a descending sequence, which is actually really easy once you learn where to look. It is the same pattern repeated across multiple octaves, and the left hand is just following the right hand with playing simple chords after each octave. How I work on these type of sections is I practice the right hand pattern enough to the point where I don't have to look at it to get it right. That way I can divert most of my attention across to the left hand, where I can place those chords accurately. This method works really well for me because I think that it's a lot easier to mess up the placement of those left-hand chords than it is to mess up a note in the right hand, just because the gaps between the notes is much larger in the left hand. Overall, I'd say this arrangement is pretty typical for Peter Buka's arrangements, as it does feature a lot of his main skills. I think it's harder than Stranger Things, so I will be putting it in hard tier. really love the intro to this piece. I think it works really well with the descending left hand, going back into the lower harmony. And also there are a few cool descending runs in the right hand at just over 1 minute. And the left hand is just mostly playing octaves. So in terms of difficulty in the opening few minutes, there's not too much to mention here. It's all very typical of his style of arrangement. One really important section to mention with this piece is at 1 minute 15, it's really important to play that melody really smoothly over the top. It can be very easy to either overuse the pedal or underuse the pedal, and you have to adjust it accordingly, like on the fly. So when you're practicing these sections, just really hear out for that melody and make sure you're using the pedal accordingly and you're not drowning out the melody with all the underlying harmony. There are some left-hand crossovers at 1 minute 35 and a pretty neat scalic sequence into an arpeggio going back down. I think that's a really nice little sequence. But once again, just take a hand separately, practice those little runs in the right hand first, and then try and link it back with the left hand harmony when you're really comfortable with what's going on in the right hand. This piece does have a slightly faster tempo, and I think that does contribute a little bit to its overall difficulty. With that being said, I think I'll put it in low God tier. This is one of my favourite ones for sure. Fast tempo, there's a lot of embellishments which are really fun to play, and it's just overall a very clean arrangement. The left hand is pretty much syncopated most of the time, and he also uses a technique called, I think it's called hand rolling. Effectively, the right hand is outlining an octave, but it's you're rolling your hand to create an arpeggiated effect. Another cool technique which he uses in this arrangement is called finger substitution. This is mainly used for playing the same note very quickly, and is another way of trying to get a smoother sound. All it is you're effectively substituting one finger for three, and you're alternating between the three fingers on the same note. It is quite a hard skill to learn properly, and you may find that it's easier for you just to not bother alternating at all. But I would recommend you try it and just see what works for you. At 1 minute 30, I think this is the hardest section of the piece. There are some fast ascending arpeggios, which could be a challenge for you, but like with many of his runs, it follows the same pattern in each octave, and the left hand stays in the same position, meaning you can focus most of your attention on what's happening in the right hand, and not so much with the left hand. So with that being said, I think I'll put it in hard tier, just behind faded. Key things to mention: very fast tempo, very coordination based, even from the start, and there is an octave melody, it comes a little bit later. But that's all the usual stuff, right? Super cool sections to mention are the section at 2 minutes 10, where there are some really fun ascending sequences, which, because of the tempo, are actually quite technical, and the section at 1 minute 35, where the left hand is playing arpeggios and the right hand is playing this cool repeated riff. Once again, this is tying back to the coordination section which I talked about from the start. When compared to the other arrangements, I think that this piece, it could be definitely up there. I think it is harder than Stay, and I think we put that in God tier. So I think for those reasons I will be putting it in high God level. Let me know in the comments on this one, but as always, if you like this video, I think you'll really like part 1, where I'll just put it up here. And yeah, thanks for watching.